Hello, Helena.
Good morning, David.
How are you? Is it
I am good, actually. I'm a bit tired.
nice and dark? Must I put the light on for me? Hang on. I don't know if that's going to make any difference, but oh well. All right, so here we are. What a journey.
I hear you.
All right, so let's go for about half an hour. I'm broadcasting everywhere. We've done the dialogue. We certainly set up the dialogue process, and we went for about 6 sessions. And before that, I did some one-on-one coaching with you. So let's capture what we've kind of learned and think of a way forward as an overall arch. And then I personally would like to share some of my challenges that I've
Mm,
got with leadership and this sort of work and where it should go and what I should be doing with this and how it's beneficial and all of that. So that's what I'd like to get out of today.
I like it.
So people can comment if they want. Um, what would you like to get out of today?
Well,
Hey
I
there,
made a list. I
Hero.
made a list here, and I said, what did I learn? What would I like to build on, and what next? So it's pretty much what you're suggesting as well. And then I really would enjoy hearing, yeah, your challenges and so on. So I want what you want, which is nice.
Okay. All right. So, where shall I start? I was going to open up a rehab facility in Cape Town, and for various reasons that fell through at the moment. So I'm sitting with the disappointment of that. Um, the That's the one thing. The second thing is how the workplace environment is changing as people have become more and more dispersed. How teams work together, how you build teams, execute how you execute the function, yeah, and the way that people communicate now that they're doing a lot more through this type of environment. So a lot of kind of leaders out there have become a lot more abrupt in their leadership and task orientated because you don't get time to kind of hang out at the coffee machine or the water. So that environment has changed, and I'm curious about how that's going to impact business and going forward. And then in this dialogue work and talking about race and gender-based violence, and I got that or the organization I work for got awarded GQ magazine Man of the Year for its work on gender-based violence, and I still feel like, fuck, I don't know why we got the award. The Because it's such a contentious topic, and a lot of people are living on top of each other now as well. So yeah, that's and I check in pissed off actually, because sometimes I feel like, fuck it, I'm the only person up front here doing anything. And what am I? Am I just like a bleeding heart do-gooder? Like, why am I doing this stuff? So um, yeah, that's where I am right now. The second.
Okay, that's a lot. Thank you.
I know. Did I overshare?
No, not at all. Not at all. I just enjoy teasing you. You always have this moment of looking a little bit surprised. Okay, so let me see. Let me check in. I am really tired. I haven't been sleeping. I'm not sure why, because there's nothing specifically that's bothering me. Um, Things are actually going better. I've had getting some paid work in, which doesn't mean I have to rearrange all the free work I've been doing. I hear you about the frustration. I go through I go through a mixture of frustration and feeling like I'm not doing enough. So thinking, why the hell am I even doing this? And then thinking, well, I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough. Yeah. So there's also that level of I know what I bring is valid and good, and then the struggle to put it out there in the world. And with me, it's a little bit opposite to you, where I would rather hold back than push forward too fast. And so I'm very aware of that dynamic, and it's been very useful in the work that I've done with you, because you're quite good at getting me to actually step up. But there's anxiety around that. There is a bit of anxiety around what next. And at the same time, there's excitement as well, and there's real pride. I feel like it's been amazing to actually just do something. And looking back, I can see how I could have done things differently, but I can also see how I wouldn't have known to do things differently unless I did it. So there's something in me that really loves the idea of a prototype, and how it's actually the idea behind it is that you can make mistakes. So I'm checking in with that. I'm excited to be here. I'm really excited about what comes out of our call. My cat is hitting on me because she feels she should be getting some attention. And at the same time, I'm tired, so I'm a little bit anxious that I'll miss a good opportunity. So with that, I am in.
All right. So where should we go? Let's talk about your offering. Let's talk about what you learned with the skill that you taught.
So I learned that I I've learned that it's one thing to have a conceptual idea of something, which is something I do a lot. I think a lot. So there's a big difference between thinking about something and doing something. And I think my biggest learning was around, rather than trying to explain the concept to people of different aspects of dialogue, to do something first and then to reflect on it afterwards and to name it. So rather than naming it up front, saying, today we're going to be learning about this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this is how it works, and this is why.
I hope that's not me. Shit, we've frozen.
Okay, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I lost you too. Carry on. I've lost you again.
There, you seem to be back.
Okay. Carry on.
Well, again, it's the universe telling me I'm talking too much. So yes, there's something about doing practice rather than trying to over-explain. So I would definitely do that differently next time. The other thing is, I think there's something around the size of the group. I think we need a bigger group. In dialogue, they usually say you should have between 15 and 30 people, ideally. But I think even 10, which I know is all this platform can hold at the moment, would be better than. I think we were too small a group.
Okay.
And then the last thing is, I think it's good to actually have a real life issue that one's tackling between the people involved. It's got a start and an end, and we're actually working towards something, especially when learning about dialogue. Or if we're going to do generative dialogue, to have a very clear topic that we all decide on day one, and we take it through the sessions together. So we can build momentum and see results.
Okay.
Yeah, those are my three main learnings.
So, what were the topics that came up? What were the themes? There's always race.
There was race, but for me, the main theme that repeatedly came up was something around safety and creating a safe container that holds emotion and that holds everyone, and like a kind of a wanting to get stuff done and feeling frustrated and held back. So there was also something around authenticity and the privilege of authenticity. It's easier for some people to be authentic, and also the ways in which we can be authentic. And those things, for me, there was an overlap. I don't know if that was also a bit wordy, but those were the two things that seemed to me to be a repetitive thing that came up in the group.
All right. So, I mean, when I went down to Cape Town, I went on a couple of hikes, which was really nice. And we had the usual Cape Town Joburg argument. And apart from that, I was just interested in listening to the topics that we spoke about, as three old friends. The one thing was the Holocaust, yeah, and why it's important to keep talking about those atrocities. The other is racism, and privilege, and there was a conversation about Cape Town being more racist than Johannesburg, or that was certainly the perspective that I brought, or the narrative that I've heard, is that kind of Cape Town people are. And that caused some heat. And then the other thing that got me thinking was, what is success? When do you know that you're successful? When do you know that you've arrived? When do you know that? Because me personally, I've lost. I've had a major adjustment this year in stuff that I've been working on for many years has kind of gone out the window, and I've had to just kind of adjust, like what is successful, what isn't successful, and around money, around pensions, around my son getting engaged and him being happy. So here's a comment. There is no argument. So Trevor obviously agrees that Johannesburg is better than Cape Town. So those were kind of, and as I'm listening to what we're talking about as three old friends that are kind of walking around, that have kind of grown up in through the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and we have kids that are growing up, getting married, how the world has changed, how it hasn't changed. And then just trying to when we did the dialogue, something that stuck out with me was when Bongile said that he felt that he needed to be cautious around using words or engaging with me, because somehow my networks might exclude him. He might get shut out. So here we have a youngish black man that is trying to create circles of dialogue to kind of address some of the challenges that we face in this country, and the belief that he has to be act in a different way towards me because there's a perception that I've got kind of white privilege and access to networks that he doesn't have. So I mean, I was really pleased when we were able to talk about that, when we were able to actually, you know, argue that. Well, not argue, debate it, but it gave me something to think about afterwards. Um, and where to in the next 25 years? And how do we have conversations that create change?
There's quite a lot in what you were saying, so I'm just going to unpack it a little bit. I think the first thing is when choosing a topic, often what happened in our dialogues together, and I've seen this in a lot of spaces, the contentious thing only comes up at the end when you've got 10 minutes left to resolve it. So there is something perhaps about flagging it and then starting with that topic again the next week. And I could go into more detail, but I'm not going to because it won't be that amusing to our listeners. But there are ways that one can do that I've seen is quite successful. Then the part around Bongile, I think ideally one would then set up a container where one could have that conversation, but you would be very specific that that's what you're going to do and you would contract beforehand. Because I think what he brought up is certainly something that I struggle with when networking as well. There are levels of access, and there is a fear in me. I can't speak for him because I'm not him. So there's a danger. For me, there's a flag around maybe not so much speaking about what happened for Bongile unless we invite Bongile in, and maybe that could be something we look at doing, where we maybe meet like 3 of us at a time and talk about the experience if people would be open to it. But there is something around privilege and power when we holding it, we can't see it. It's invisible when we hold it. So usually when someone points it out to us, there's a sense of surprise. And once again, I can't say that was what was happening between you and Bongile because I'm neither you nor Bongile, but I can only speak from my experience. So there is something very powerful in unpacking that I think is needed. And I'm going to end with this. There's something for me around speaking around gender-based violence and race in South Africa that has got stuck on a loop. And the conversations go around and around. And I think that is where dialogue can be very helpful to try and name where we're getting stuck and is different ways of doing things. And once again, for me, it feels like it would need sensitivity, it would need commitment, it would need a big enough group, and it would need some structure. And now I'm feeling like I'm going into my thoughts again. But there is something there that wants to be unpacked in a new way.
Okay, so I mean, you're definitely the leader here. You're the facilitator, the leader, the holder of the space. I came onto this as a student. I came in to try and learn new skills. Yeah, and it's I forget what they are, but suspend, proceed, withhold. What was the other one?
Voice, listen,
Voice.
respect, and suspend.
Okay. So for me, I was coming in to try and learn that stuff, and then to see how I can apply that skill out in the outer world. Yeah, in my leadership in the various projects that I do have, and yeah, what would part 2 hold?
Part 2 would hold. Okay, so I'm going to jump a little bit and I'm going to introduce something what I would like part 2 to look like.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go slowly. So after we've completed the first thing, I suddenly sat back and I thought, oh, I wasn't quite as clever as I thought I was. I thought, oh, no, these people don't know what they're doing. I could do it better. And then I put something together and then I went off and did it. And then I was like, okay, maybe my mentors do know stuff that I don't know. So I went back to them and said, this is what happened. And then I got invited into a group that they put together around the issue of homelessness.
Okay.
And this is the first dialogue group that I've been in that actually feels like it's a dialogue. And what this woman, so someone convenes it and she's very clearly facilitating it. And there's a broad range of people from different areas of working with homelessness, different levels of seniorship. Yeah, senior. That's the one. And also different race representations. So it's quite a big group and it's well held. And what they do is they vote on the topic in the first group that they're going to speak on in the next group. And then the facilitator went away and prepared just 2 really powerful slides on that. She let the dialogue roll for a while till people were into it on the topic everyone decided on. And then she paused and she looked at a very short knowledge piece on what people were speaking about, and then the dialogue deepened quite a lot after that. So I would love to do something like that. That's a specific issue with people who works on that issue. And then have more structure to it and have more learning where people's actually talking and having dialogue more than me trying to explain things up front. I don't think that worked very well.
Okay, so that was one of the discussions I had with my son and his girlfriend, was around homelessness in Cape Town and whether you should be giving to the beggars at the traffic lights or should rather be donating to shelters. And my stance was that I'd rather give to the person at the lights. Yeah, that's. And the other side of the argument was, no, I'd rather give to an organization that can be supportive of this to kind of get people, I guess, off the streets. And we didn't get to any kind of resolution around it. But one thing I did notice is there was a lot more homelessness in Cape Town than I'd noticed before. Or put it this way: the homelessness was more in the city bowl where it was much more prevalent than before. Yeah. Most probably it was there before, but it just wasn't in the public eye as much because of COVID.
Right.
So what was the outcome? What did you learn?
So I learned 2 things. I learned about dialogue because what happened was there were people who held your view. Because interestingly enough, that was what we spoke about. It was like, how do you assist and when is it appropriate to do so? Was one of the main kind of themes, and it was something around invisibility and ignoring people. So that was one view, the view of these organizations, it's better to help them, but there were other views as well. And it wasn't a debate. Like people spoke quite short and everybody else listened and really heard them. And then somebody else would speak and sometimes I would follow what somebody said. Sometimes I would bring something new, but by being present and just really listening, whole new levels of knowledge came through for me. And the one was, there was some women who work in LA with the homeless, and they clearly held the piece around language and how we speak about the homeless and how we divide between somehow those who don't have, there's kind of something wrong with them, and those who do have is doing something right. That's quite an important piece. For me, there was also something around really seeing the tension between looking at somebody at the robot and really seeing them, and then sitting with this tension of, well, I can help them, but I can't help everyone. That makes me show up in other ways, where I might be lazy in my world, where I would rather think, this dialogue thing's too much work. So there's something about feeling the pain of not being able to help someone that wakes me up to the fact that there is inequality and that it is not fair. And then to really say, okay, where can I work? Is it helping this person? Is it actually helping someone in my life that's doing important work? Is it actually supporting, I know, white families who's not being able to make their mortgage? I have friends who can't make their mortgage. Like, why do I think it has to be that person somehow? I don't know if that makes sense, but there was for me a whole thing about seeing it's part of a system, and there's a whole lot of ways I'm not being generous in other places of the system where I can and where it can make quite a difference. So yes, I can help that person, and when I can, I will, but it's not just that's needed. There's more stuff that's needed. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So here's a systemic change that a Facebook user has posted. Court cases against moving homeless people in Cape Town has resulted in more visible amounts of people living openly in the city. So that's most probably a better way of seeing it, is that it's more in my face now. Yeah, traveling there. So it hasn't gone. It's just more prevalent for me. So my eyes have been open to it more. And then how do we fix that problem? Do we ignore the problem and just kind of, I'm all right, Jack? Yeah. Do we do something to try and change the situation? Yeah, or what? Yeah.
You see, for me, that's where dialogue is powerful, because rather than debate it, if one can listen, really listen to what everyone's saying around it, we might all come up with, oh, these are things I could do differently. Because I left the dialogue feeling empowered, but also really feeling like the injustice of what's happening, and knowing that I'm not okay with it. I'm actually not okay with ignoring people. And then really saying, well, where can I use that knowledge to step up more in my life? Because I'm a type of person who tends to not do stuff. So that's what I learned out of it. And I would guess that everyone in that group, when we checked out, it was completely different learnings for everyone, but everyone learned something quite powerful. And with the other thing is, and I'll end with this, most of the people in that group actually works in the field of social justice in some way or another. So they would take the learning that they've had and go and apply it, and that would feed it to the next time.
So the audience, is that the right audience? If everyone's working in social justice?
I think it depends. That's the thing with dialogue. It depends what you're trying to do. There are a couple of people there who's just kind of cruising in because they've got time and they managed to wing their ways in, so they don't work in social justice. But and their voices were important. But my biggest answer to you is it would depend what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's start wrapping this up, Helena, if you're all right with that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to go? How do you want to plan this year? I'd like to carry on exploring with you. I'd like to carry on promoting your work.
So I would like.
It's my agenda.
I think it's a fantastic agenda. I like it.
Okay.
I think what I would like to explore is what would the next iteration of the prototype look like, and what do I have? What values, resources, contacts do I have to get it going, and what is stopping me? What kind of belief systems, and where do I just not have access to certain people or resources, and how can I access them? So I think that would be a great way to start. To say, this is what I want to do. Does it make sense? Who would need to be there? What's stopping me? So perfect old grow model. What's my goal? What's the other thing? Yeah, that would be very valuable.
All right. So how do people get in touch with you, Helena? How do we?
think I can probably give you an email address. Scary as it is to put it on social media, but it's one. I don't. Okay.
Just put it in the private chat and then I'll copy it and paste it.
Here we go. People can just send me an email.
And otherwise, you've got a Facebook page?
Yes. I don't have a. Oh, I do. You're right. Oh, that's actually much better. Yes. That's why I need you. Let me just find it. Give me a second and even. Apologies. Let me just find the thing. But it's my Facebook page doesn't talk about dialogue at all. It's my coaching page.
Well, it's a start. Personally, what I want to do is I want to start helping families that are impacted by mental health and addiction by a family member.
Yes.
That's my personal dialogue this year. So I want to be able to support, instead of supporting, just to support families and that are impacted by their loved ones that have mental health issues or addiction issues. I think the substance users are getting more than enough help. They know how to look after themselves.
Absolutely.
So that's.
What if we look at our next session? Well, what could that look like?
Where is your Facebook page?
I can't find it, and I don't want to be distracted while I'm talking to you. So I'm thinking maybe we should.
Well, it's fine. Just tell me what it's called.
I don't know.
You don't know what your Facebook page is called.
I don't know. I haven't slept in my. I think it's called Beyond the Known, but I'm not sure. Something beyond, but I can't find it, which is weird. Usually it has a. There we go. Moving beyond the known. I'm going to share it with you right this minute. But it's got no info on dialogue. But I'll go and put something on it now that I've got you kicking my ass, which it is.
Transformation coaching.
That's the one.
Okay, so here we go. Cool. All right, love.
Thank you, David.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for the 2 likes that we got from our millions of listeners out there. And Josh Murphy. Thank you, Josh. Josh is great. Josh works in public health. I know watching this will get spread out to a whole lot of other people. So the fact that we maybe just have 1 or 2 people watching, and then we have Anthony from the Hout Bay community, which is a great community, which is a great real kind of. It's like a bowl of South Africa. Yeah. You got all sorts mixing in Hout Bay. Okay, great. All right, Helena, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm checking out with Joy. There's